Imagine being alone in the darkness of the night, your truck stranded on an empty road with silence all around. Suddenly, a loud thud echoes, but when you turn to look, there's nothing there. Have you ever felt like something was close to you, but you couldn't see it? Then, a mysterious phone call comes in, and a voice says, "You left the door open." You wonder, is this just your imagination, or is something else happening? When you find out how all of this unfolded, your mind will be left in shock. I've been a truck driver for over a decade, hauling freight across America's highways. The long, empty stretches of road have become my second home. The hum of the engine, the faint voice on the radio, it's all I've ever known. But nothing prepared me for what happened one night. It started off like any other trip. I was making a delivery on a lonely stretch of road, cutting through a thick forest. The moon was barely a sliver, leaving the road dark and quiet. My headlights barely reached far enough to make me feel at ease, and the silence. It felt heavier than usual, like the world was holding its breath. And then, at exactly 12:03 a.m., the truck jolted, throwing me forward. My heart skipped a beat as I slammed on the brakes. Flat tire. It's not uncommon. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the cold night. But the moment I did, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The trees around me seemed unnaturally tall, their branches twisting above like skeletal hands reaching down. I've driven through forests like this 100 times, but tonight felt different. The silence was almost suffocating. My heart was pounding in my ears as I tightened the tire. Then, just as I stood up, I heard it, a faint rustling from the woods. I froze, listening. Nothing. I shook it off, trying to focus on the task at hand. But then, thud. A loud bang on the side of my truck. I spun around, flashlight shaking in my hand, trying to make sense of the sound. But there was nothing. No wind, no movement, just darkness and trees. My breath was coming in quick gasps, but I convinced myself it was just my mind playing tricks. Maybe a branch had fallen. Maybe I was just jumpy. I climbed back into the truck, my hands still trembling. As I reached for the key to start the engine, I noticed my phone vibrating on the dashboard. It was an incoming call, but the number was strange, just a series of zeros, plus 000. Every instinct told me to ignore it, but for some reason, I answered. "Hello?" My voice sounded off, weak even to my own ears. There was nothing at first, just static. Then, a low, distant whisper came through the line. It was faint, almost as if it was coming from miles away, but it was clear as day. "You left the door open." My stomach twisted. I froze. My heart skipped a beat as I turned toward the passenger seat. The door, barely ajar. I know I locked it. The weight of that realization hit me all at once. My hands were shaking as I slammed the door shut and double-locked it. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I didn't latch it properly. Maybe I was too tired. But something deep inside told me this wasn't normal. I started the truck and hit the gas, desperate to put as much distance between myself and whatever was out there. But then, the phone rang again. Same number. The same damn series of zeros. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But the ringtone, it drilled into my skull, echoing in my ears like it was coming from inside the truck itself. My panic was spiraling out of control, and when I turned my phone off, I still heard it. Whispers, soft, distorted voices coming from within the truck. I didn't stop until the sun began to rise, and I pulled into a rundown motel. I was exhausted, but something was gnawing at me. I checked my phone. No record of the call, no trace of what had happened. Nothing but a bad memory, like a nightmare. I tried to relax, told myself it was just exhaustion. But when I glanced out the window, my blood ran cold. There, in the parking lot, was my truck. And the passenger door? It was open again. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks. But the next day, I received an unmarked envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photograph of my truck parked at that motel. Through the window, I could see myself, sleeping inside. I flipped the photo over, my hands shaking. Scrawled on the back in jagged handwriting were the same words. "You left the door open." I didn't believe in the supernatural before that night, but after that, I don't know what to believe anymore. Some things just can't be explained. Some things don't follow the rules of reality. And every time my phone rings late at night now, I wonder, what if I answer? Have you ever encountered something in your life that is beyond your understanding? A moment when you thought you had everything figured out, only to have certain events shake your entire perception? A truck driver, during his journey, witnessed something that not only changed his thoughts, but also transformed his entire view on life. Have you ever imagined a night where you're faced with a challenge that brings you closer to death with every step you take? If you think this is just a horror story, you might be wrong, because within the depths of this tale lies a truth you've never even considered. Are you ready to fully understand this unknown and terrifying journey? If so, don't forget to listen to this story until the end, because it holds a truth you'll never forget. I've been driving trucks for 15 years, coast to coast. I've seen it all: snowy mountains, dusty highways, blackout storms. But last winter, there was a delivery, and the moment I picked it up, I knew this road was leading straight to death. If you think ghosts don't hitchhike, you haven't driven Route 289 at midnight. It was around 11:40 p.m. I was at a diner near Des Moines, sipping coffee. Then I got a call from dispatch: urgent delivery to the Kansas City warehouse. They said it's only a 3-hour drive, extra pay. I agreed. When I got to the pickup point and took the paperwork, the manifest only had one line: do not open. Delivery, 3:33 a.m. No exceptions, no destination details, no sender's name. Just an old container, rusty and cold. I thought it might be some private government or military stuff, but the money was double, so I locked and loaded. I'd been driving for an hour when the GPS rerouted me. It took me off the normal highway and onto a narrow road, Route 289. I'd never heard of it before. It wasn't even clearly marked on the map. The road was narrow, and the gravel wasn't even properly laid down. On both sides, dense jungle and trees. The trees were strange. They seemed still, yet it felt like they were moving toward me. Some of them had faces, or maybe my mind was just losing it. Then I saw her, a woman in a white dress. She stood still in the cold wind, like she needed help. As soon as my truck passed by her, she disappeared. I looked in my rearview mirror, and she was sitting in the middle of the road. My heart froze. I ignored it and drove on. But 5 minutes later, I heard a sound from the trailer, like someone was breathing inside. Ha! I immediately stopped the truck, grabbed a flashlight, and inspected the trailer. Everything was tight, straps secure, lock intact. But when I got back in the cab, the windshield was fogged up, and in the fog, someone had written, "Don't be late." I immediately started the truck again, but I couldn't make sense of it. The radio was off, but suddenly, static came on. The FM station changed, and then a distorted male voice started speaking. "You took the wrong road, but you were always meant to." I was in shock. The voice sounded robotic, like a dead line playing over and over. Then a long laugh. Ha! Ha ha! I quickly yanked out the radio wire, but the voice kept coming. Just a little more time. I arrived at the warehouse exactly at 3:33 a.m. Everything was dark, no lights, no guards. Only one bay door was open, and inside it was pitch black. She was standing there, the same woman, white dress, pale skin, eyes, pitch black. She looked at me, then pointed to the back of the truck. I opened the cargo gate. There was nothing inside. No box, no straps. The trailer was empty. I climbed inside and scanned the whole trailer with my flashlight. Not a scratch on the walls. Then the woman said, "Delivered," and in a second, she vanished. The next morning, I called dispatch. They said, "Sir, we didn't assign any delivery to you. You weren't even scheduled." I was in shock. I checked the map, but there was no record of Route 289. I went back to the same location. Where the warehouse had been, there was only an empty field, overgrown bushes, no building, no bay doors, nothing. I checked the dashcam footage. From 2 a.m. to 3:34 a.m., the file was corrupted. There were only whispers in the background. Delivered, delivered, delivered. After that, I never took a sealed delivery at night again. I never blindly trusted my GPS. And most importantly, I never accept unknown manifests, because some deliveries aren't meant for the living.